Hello everyone, it is I, Ryan, also known as thelovebat. So here I am once again in the arena, Magic the Gathering arena as it were, and I'm here to go ahead and bring yet another one of these lovely draft videos to all of you. And I'm doing it, apparently, I guess I kind of forgot there's another new format coming out that's I think going to end up getting the Brothers War out of rotation as far as draft sets go. So I'm going to be a bit late to the party here and finally playing the Brothers War format for the first time. I know that there's been some early access sort of draft events or whatever for people that are like content creators and stuff that are able to play the next format a bit earlier than others. I think it's called Finalizing or something like that format. I can't remember exactly how you pronounce that or what the full name is, but there's a new format coming out this week, and so I figured I'd do one last draft video before the rotation sort of starts here, sort of in the middle of the night recording here, but I'm going to be uploading it for all the people here on YouTube in probably the next day or so, but I'm recording this just before the rotation happens, so I'm going to do at least one Brothers War draft before this format rotates out of the sort of most recent formats that's, you know, easily available for people to draft. I think that after this rotates out, there's usually like an option to do like, I think maybe a quick draft, but I'm not sure. It's kind of finicky to know what sets that you can play in a draft format or not as time goes along. I just don't know if there's any set pattern there, but occasionally for a couple weeks after this set rotates out, you can still play it as like a quick draft where there's like AI bots that draft or something like that for lots of cards, and then you can still do a draft that way. But we're gonna do a premiere draft here. I've seen some drafts for some Magic the Gathering YouTubers like Numat the Nummy or Seems Good Magic are two YouTubers in particular that I watch draft videos for, and so I kind of get a read sometimes on some formats and what it's like and if I want to play in it or not, or if I want to do draft videos for it or not. So this seems like an interesting format. So you have like a blue-white soldiers kind of theme. There are some soldiers in other colors, but blue-white soldiers is interesting. I thought that red-white would probably be a better combination for soldiers, but it's still an interesting sort of archetype. And then you have a decent amount of artifact and artifact type synergies. There's lots of artifacts in this format from what I understand. Kamigawa had lots of artifacts in that format as well, but they also had lots of enchantments as well. Enchantments, I guess, were actually even more prominent in the Kamigawa set than artifacts were. So I'm somewhat familiar with this sort of format and some of the archetypes, green black sort of reanimation, graveyard milling type things. I've seen that too, and even some constructed decks. So we'll go ahead and do one draft video of the Brothers War before this goes out of rotation here, and I'll see how I do with my sort of first actual run playing with the cards here after having seen a couple of drafts in the past and seeing what some of the cards are like, and I haven't really had a chance to play with any of them yet, but it will be interesting to see how this plays out for my first time doing it firsthand. But I'll see you for the draft and wait for these other two seats to open up here, and I will be right back. All right, we finally have a fully filled board here. I was getting a quick sip of water while running down the timer just a little bit, but I am ready to go. We're going to jump in here to the Brothers War draft, maybe my only draft video I get to do with it before it rotates out. So let's go ahead and see how we do here in our sole draft video for it. All right, pack one, pick one in the trenches. So this is a decent sort of going wide sort of buff. Creatures get +1/+1, and you can exile something that's okay. So you can do it as semi-removal as well later in the game as a mana sink to exile like the biggest threat that the opponent has. That seems like a pretty good first pick. Corrupt. Looks like this is a good sort of monocolored type of removal spell. Rolling Strike is a combat trick. Air Marshal is a soldier in the blue-white sort of soldier deck. Can occasionally give something flying to go over the top. Journeyer's Kite. So this can fix for your mana, and you can do it more than once. So we have some Power Stone tokens is another sort of theme, and those sort of ramp and artifact decks. You can also sacrifice them for artifact sacrifice synergies. Tower Workers ramp. There's also Prototype, which is another sort of mechanic where you can pay less mana cost to get something out sooner, even though it's not going to be as good as just paying full mana for it. Obstinate Baloth is interesting. It's sort of like a 4/4 for 4 mana, but you gain some life. And this can also punish an opponent for using like black spells that cause you to discard cards, which are pretty common in black. But it goes far. Like we can still play it with Into the Trenches, but you can't really splash for the Baloth or in the Trenches because they're double color. Finalizing Vanguard is a good soldier card, and it goes well with our first pick. We can go wide with soldiers, and you can just get in with it, and it also goes very well with In the Trenches because it's a first strike creature, and so 3 power with first strike is going to be a pretty strong option. Even if you can't pump it with the ability, it's still baseline very good. Military Discipline looks like a decent sort of combat trick that can give first strike. Let's see here. Hall of Tagsin. This is sort of a mana fixing card that can occasionally get you Power Stone tokens to sacrifice, possibly as sort of a way to do like some removal spells require you to sacrifice an artifact or a creature. This is a good piece of removal here that can deal damage to any target, so you can go to your opponent's face and then possibly ramp into a big creature with a Power Stone token. Granted, you don't really want to, like, Power Stone tokens only go for artifact creatures, and so there are some soldiers that are artifacts, but there's some other archetypes that use artifacts a bit more. The Fall of Krug. Target land. Fall of Krug is player. Okay, so this is possibly a board sweeper if they go wide with tokens for your opponent, but it's a lot of mana and sorcery speed. Finalizing Excavation. Maybe it's good for green ramp, but not for us. And there were a lot of artifacts in there as well. But Excavation Explosion seems like good removal here, sticking with red and white. Mass Production is good for the soldier deck. It's only sorcery speed, so you can't really like use it as a combat trick to kill something on defense, like block a bunch of block one creature with a couple tokens and kill it. But it's still good for a soldier playing as sort of a curve topper, and you can get a bunch of tokens out, and it goes very well within the trenches here, which can basically, if we hit both of these going at the same time, this gives you 4 2/2 soldier creatures, and there are ways to buff them in other ways, such as there's a blue-white soldier that gives soldiers +1/+1. Dreams of Oil and Steel. This is sort of like a discard type effect. So you get the opponent to semi-discard cards in a way. But yeah, I'm good with Mass Production here. We're just keeping with the soldier theme and red and white so far. Psychic Blast says this will cast sacrifice a creature. Okay, so this is good if you have like a 3/1 2-drop and you need some removal here. It's usually better in like red-black is usually a good sacrifice sort of colors. But this requires you to sacrifice a creature. So if you have like a 1/1 token, it's not going to do a whole lot. But if you have like a 3/1 or 4/1 creature, it can still do something. So this is a way to ramp and fix. Maybe this is a better option than Psychic Blast. This is a 3/1 soldier that can get in some aggro. I don't know. I guess this is maybe better for our aggro soldier type plan in red-white. Maybe we can splash some blue in future packs to try and get a little bit of... there's a blue-white soldier for 4 mana that I know of that can maybe fit well in this deck. This is good for red aggro. Casting on creature spells. So we have Mass Production, Excavation, Explosion, Into Trenches, I guess counts also. So we have a decent amount of non-creature spells here. And we can maybe get some more combat tricks to give this thing prowess as well. There's also Disenchant, which is pretty decent in this format because there's lots of artifacts. And then Coastal Bulwark. There's more artifacts here for artifact type synergies, prototype cards. The Rock is a decent flyer in blue here that you can flash in. This is a pretty good synergy if you have ways to... There was that red removal spell where you sacrifice a creature. If you sacrifice a token, then you can give this thing +2, +0 pretty easily if you can sacrifice creatures or artifacts, or if you can get like an Evolving Wilds, you can sacrifice that and pump this in the same turn. Over the top. This seems like a specialized card. I'll just go for the aggro card here that we can occasionally use like combat tricks to pump up even more. And then there's another, what is it, excavation or so, whatever it was, in green for the ramp. There's the military discipline again, which does go well with Monastery Swiftspear. And it has flash, and we could block with like a Rock Hunter against something if they attack in with a flying creature. Have like a 4/1 first strike creature. Yeah, I think this is pretty decent. Aeronaut's Wings also could be decent, getting in over the top with like a Rock Hunter, for example. Attack with a 4/1 flying creature, but Military Discipline's a decent combat trick. It works at the Monastery Swiftspears to pump those up as well. Looks like the Corrupt wheeled around. This is better for like a mono black deck. Maybe you splash some red or some green in the mono black deck as well to have a bunch of swamps. Whirling Strike is pretty good, and it goes well with the Monastery Swiftspears, so combat tricks do work pretty well in our deck. This isn't really for our deck. We don't really have many artifacts right now, if any. We can make a Power Stone token with Excavation Explosion, and that's about it. We're looking more like a soldier deck and less like an artifact sort of heavy deck. Destroy target artifact. That's maybe more of a sideboard card because it can only destroy artifacts. Double Strike could be decent as a mana sink, and Excavation Explosion. The Power Stone token won't help with that, but we could maybe find synergies to sacrifice the Power Stone token. I guess we take this. I don't know if I play it because it's 6 mana removal, but draw a card and you gain life number of cards in your hand. That's more something you want to start with in your opening hand, and then you can maybe play it turn 3 to gain some life and stave off aggro for a bit longer. Millstone is more for the green-black plan. You can also get your opponent to mill out, but you need probably 2 or more of these and other ways to make your opponent mill out. I guess I'll just take the uncommon here for the vault. I don't think I'm going to play the Millstone. Power Suit, equipped each creature gets +1 each. Okay. I'll just get Psychic Blast here. It's red. It's technically removal here. We could find some decent cards to sacrifice to it. I don't think I'm going to play the Smith there. And then Bonesaw, we could play it. Where is it? The Scrapsmith. I don't think that we're going to play this, but it's not bad. It's not a bad card, but you need an artifact heavy deck for it. Urza, Prince of Krug, artifact creature. So this is very good for artifact heavy decks. Blue-white soldiers does have some artifacts in it, but we don't have any of those soldier artifact creature sort of creature cards yet. We do have a 1-drop soldier here, which seems pretty good, even if it doesn't, like, even if we can't take advantage of the ability, we still get a 2/1 soldier creature on turn 1 for sort of a curve out here. Plus with some Swiftspears, we have some 1-drops. Monastery Swiftspears are not soldiers, but they're still good for an aggro plan here. There isn't really much else in red or white, but I like the 1-drop soldier. That seems like a good pick for us. Let's see, Evolving Wilds is some good fixing. We could fix for some blue mana if we get the blue-white soldier. And then there's also a couple of other good blue soldiers as well. Ashnod Flesh Mechanist, 1/1 Death Touch baseline is pretty decent. And then whenever it attacks, you can sacrifice another creature to ramp or build with Power Stone tokens and do more sacrifice synergies, I imagine. And then you can make zombies with it. That's a pretty strong card, but we can't really splash for that one. Yeah, I guess we can just take the Evolving Wilds here. There are some soldiers. Well, I guess we could take the Survivor of Corliss too. This is a good 1-drop soldier. First Strike can be pretty strong with some of the combat tricks that we have, as well as the Into Trenches. Otherwise, I'd probably just take Evolving Wilds there to splash, maybe for some blue mana for some other soldiers that are strong enough. Arms Race, artifact card from hand on the battlefield. Okay, so not really the kind of thing that would fit in our deck. Obliterating Bolt. This seems like some good removal to pick up here for damage to creature or planeswalker, which is relevant. So, like, I don't know how many planeswalkers there are in this format. I don't know. I don't think that they're very prominent, but they do exist. And so if you come up against one, if an opponent's lucky enough to get one, then it's good to have around. Becomes an artifact, not really for our deck. Hexproof and Indestructibles, decent enough for 1 mana. Retrieval Agent, technically a soldier, but not really fit for our deck, not something that we'd want to splash. Another Vanguard, I will take that and be quite happy with it. And it's not a legendary creature, so we can get more than one of these out onto the field and just have some first strikers in there. Plus it's going pretty well for our curve. We need some sort of higher drop creatures. We have plenty of 1-drop spells, plus a Bonesaw, which is a non-creature spell for the Monastery Swiftspears. Power Blade is pretty good in a soldier deck. This would probably end up wheeling because I don't think it's very highly picked. Death Charge Colossus is pretty good in an artifact-heavy deck if you can ramp into it with Power Stone tokens. Air Marshal, decent blue soldier, but we probably don't splash for it. And then that one spider there is a pretty good defensive creature. And green. So Thorn of Amethyst, non-creature spells, cast 1 more to cast. Don't think I want to take this one because we have a decent amount of non-creature spells that we would want to play. We have some removal, combat tricks, and the trenches. So I don't think that I want the Thorn of Amethyst. Aeronaut Cavalry, on the other hand, seems like a very good card for our deck. We have 6 soldiers already, which is a pretty good count in pack 2. What else is here? Raise to the Ground. And again, more of a sideboard card and we're best of 1. But yeah, Aeronaut Cavalry is pretty good for our curve, and it's a good curve topper to pump up your soldiers. Let's see. We have the... Oh, what's this? Hajar Loyal Bodyguard. Sacrifice it. Legendary creatures control +1/+0. Gain Indestructible. We don't really have many we don't have any legendary creatures yet. I don't know if there's any legendary soldiers. I mean, 3/3 baseline is still good. And there's only the Chain Dancer, which is a 4-drop. This can make tokens, but it's for 4 mana and you only get 2 tokens, so... Spectrum Sentinel is a 1-drop soldier. But it's only a 1/2. It's not really a good aggressive card. Not sure if I want to take that. But it might be the only card for us here. This is a specialized card for Constructed, from what I understand and read of it. Yeah, I mean, this is a soldier. I don't think I really need it. I don't know if it's going to make the cut, but there's nothing else for us here. Could splash for the Centaur Courser in green, I suppose, but Spectrum Sentinel is more likely to make the deck. 4 or 5 soldiers are still pretty strong. That green one, we could splash for it with like an Evolving Wilds if it wheels, but the Spectrum Sentinels are more likely to make the deck. Cheap artifact, sacrifice fodder. Yeah, I guess I'll just go ahead and take an uncommon for the vault. I don't think there's anything here that we're really wanting. Oh, jeez, I'm trying to put this into my sideboard and it's not working. Okay, so Forge Chanter, Burrowing Razor Maw. This is for the green, black, and mill type deck. Supply Drop is a halfway decent combat trick that can eventually draw you a card. So, and it's also good for those for that goblin, the 1/2 goblin, where you get +2/+0 when you sacrifice a permanent. So maybe if we get one of those goblins in pack 3, we might take one, since you can sacrifice some permanents. Steel Exemplar, Trample. Okay. Well, I guess we'll just take this for the vault, I guess. Let me go ahead and get some of these things to our sideboard here that's I'm probably not playing. Okay. So Arms Race. Again, I don't want it. I'll just take this for the vault since I don't think I'm taking any of these other cards. Power Blade Wield. Halfway decent for us. 1 mana quick cost isn't too bad. Plus it goes pretty well with the Survivor of Corliss with First Strike. Dredging Claw, I guess. Well, we'll just go ahead and take the best card here for the vault or whatever. Guess technically a Chain Dancer works well, but Mishra's Onslaught goes better with the In the Trenches. Plus we already have 1 Chain Dancer in our deck when we may only play 1 of them. Okay, so we have some soldiers here, it looks like. We have a green soldier here, but don't think we're splashing for a 1-drop like this, so what's this do is the rare 5/4 flying. It is a prototype, being in combat in turn, gain strings of flying, vigilance, or lifelink. Alright, so this is a pretty, like, it does have white prototype. We could still play this. And with some of the soldiers we have, lifelink at the very least would be pretty strong. You can definitely play this in white. Banished Heart can splash. Yeah, I guess I wasn't seeing a whole lot else there that I could really consider anyway. So we'll just go ahead and take the card that can prototype for white and it can still do pretty well in our deck. Seems pretty strong to just get lifelink or flying over the top of a strong soldier creature. We have a Paratrooper here that can flash and is flying. Can also give you a mana sink in the late game, so that's a pretty decent card. Excavation Explosion maybe is the pick here, just to get some more removal. Spot removal in this format can be both good and bad. Sometimes there's just big creatures that 3 damage isn't going to be able to kill, unless it's maybe like a prototype creature that came in for the prototype cost. But this is pretty good removal for constructed, but artifacts are pretty heavy in this format, so I don't know if you'd... It might be more like a sideboard removal option in this format because there's so many artifacts and artifact creatures. What is Meticulous Excavation? Enchantment. Return to bring control to its owner's hand. Okay, so you might be able to like get some like more into the battlefield type effects of this. I suppose you can... Well, you can only activate it during your turn, but I guess if you attack and then an opponent uses instant speed removal, maybe you could save a creature with that. I guess I'll just go with the Conscripted Infantry here. Gives you a soldier token if it dies. We could always sacrifice it to that removal spell. What is it? The not Mishra's Onslaught. The Pyrrhic Blast. We could always sacrifice the Conscripted Infantry to the Pyrrhic Blast. Get a token out of it, so it's something. Another Obliterating Bolt seems pretty good. Mass Production would also be really good, but don't know if I want to play more than 1 because it is 6 mana and we do already have 1. We also have a Steel Seraph, which is 6 mana as well. We have some high mana cards. I don't think that Fall of Krug makes the deck. Oh, gee. Yeah, there we go. So Obliterating Bolt here I think is still a good pick, regardless of whatever else. Didn't have time to read all of the cards there that I wanted to, but First time drafting in this format. I'm not familiar with all the cards. Tokasi's Welcome. Whenever more creatures, a mana value 3 or less on his battlefield, draw a card. Alright, so this seems pretty good in our deck because we have lots of 1 to 3 mana creatures. And we also have lots of combat tricks. But we are a creature-heavy deck, it seems, right now. I guess 13 creatures isn't as many as I thought that we had. But I guess we have ways to create more creatures, like creature tokens. So I guess, I don't know if those technically count, but... Let's see, Mishra's Domination. But I think that just another Vanguard is good here. I think we play all 3 of them. They're not legendary creatures. They're still very strong. 2/3 first strike. They can get pumped by many things that we have in our deck, like the Cavalry is a good one. And then we have other ways, I think, to buff them up, like in the trenches. And then combat tricks as well go very well with first strike. So 2/3 first striker, I think, is going to be pretty strong. Another one, well, I mean, if they're going to keep on giving it to me, I'm just going to keep on taking them. There's like nothing else here. Like Unleash Shell is a decent instant speed removal, but it is 5 mana. I'd rather just have the Vanguard and use the combat trick on it to kill something. I can attack in, and then I can just get in there and use a combat trick on the Vanguard and possibly pump up some Swift Spears. Seems pretty good to me, so I like the Vanguard here. Let's see, another Chain Dancer that I don't think that I'm going to play. Spectrum Sentinel, I don't think I'll play a second one. We already have some other good 1-drops. I think we just take the uncommon card here for the Vault. I don't think I'm playing 2 of those. Saxon Refinery. This is more of an artifact, sort of synergy type deck. Coastal Bulwark. Looking through the cards here. I think I just take another uncommon for the Vault. I don't think I play any of the other cards anyway, so... Yoshi and Medics, believe it or not, they're not really a good card, so even if you can put an equipment on them for lifelink, 1 for a lifelink just doesn't really do a whole lot, so I think we just go ahead and take another uncommon for the Vault here. Military Discipline, halfway decent, but I think we already pretty much have a deck here and we have to make cuts, so I would rather just take the uncommon cards for the Vault. It seems like a pretty good sort of build around of drawing cards and discarding cards. I'm just taking this for the Vault. And alright, so here's the Goblin Blast Runner. We might play something like this. If I don't know, we didn't really end up with any Evolving Wilds though, so I guess we don't really want to play that since we only have one reliable way of like sacrificing like a permanent, which is the Pyrrhic Blast, I think. Yeah, I'm just going to take the red card here. Not going to play it. Alright, so it looks like we have red-white soldiers going on in this deck and some other sort of pretty good creatures and some early plays as well. Fairly low curve, but we do have a couple of pretty awesome sort of high mana creatures like the Aeronaut Cavalry. Steel Seraph is pretty dang awesome as well, and that prototypes for white. And then we can sort of go wide with mass production, as well as which one is it? There's a... I thought we had another token generator here. Mishra's Onslaught, that's it. So we can go wide with some soldier tokens. We unfortunately did not end up with that blue-white soldier that gives +1/+1 to all of your soldiers, which is unfortunate. But we do have In the Trenches, which gives all of our creatures +1/+1, and they don't have to be a soldier to get pumped up with it. So the Monastery Swift Spears, they get pumped up by In the Trenches, which is pretty awesome. We'll get rid of one Swift Spear. I don't think we want to play that many of them. I think Bonesaw doesn't make the cut here, even though it is good with some of our first striking creatures. We have better things to do with our mana. We have some combat tricks which can maybe make a better use of mana, as well as being like when you have Bonesaw equipped, it's not like a surprise to the opponent, and I think like combat tricks and having the element of surprise can allow you to get rid of some of their creatures that make blocks on you. think we want to keep all 4 of the Vanguards. It's just a very good card. There's no reason not to just have as many of them as you can. Which means that we probably just get rid of the Chain Dancer because we already have the Vanguards that are probably better here. You don't have to use a mana sink to give them first strike or double strike. And so that's pretty good for them. Plus they go better for the combat tricks where you're already burning mana to play a combat trick, for example. So the double strike mana sink, I mean, it's only 2 mana, which isn't very much, and double strike can be strong. And it doesn't need white mana, but I think we're already going to be playing like an even split of white mana and red mana. Can I splash for this? It's a 3 mana, it's a 2 mana for 3/3 creature here. It is a soldier. It does go with the deck, but I don't know if I didn't really end up with an Evolving Wilds. I didn't end up with any of the mana fixing artifacts. So I don't think that we can really play this. Even though it's a 3/3 soldier for 2 mana, the chances of us having green mana available to play it early in a match, very unlikely. So, and we don't have any legendary creatures in our deck either, so it doesn't really... I mean, 2 mana 3/3 creature is strong by itself if you can splash for the green mana, but we didn't end up with any of the mana fixing artifacts. We didn't end up with Evolving Wilds or a dual land that can give us green mana. Plus, I probably would have been more likely to splash for blue than green, so... Shot in the dark, but you can't win them all. We weren't able to splash that. I mean, these are all pretty decent 1-drops here. Maybe the Spectrum Sentinel isn't going to be good here just because of the fact that we don't have any non-basic lands to even want to play. I think we'll play 16 lands here as well for... It's an aggressive deck, but we do have some mana sinks in the late game here with some 6-drops, as well as some sort of high-priced removal here in some ways. We have this as a combat trick potentially. This is 4 mana removal in some cases. Pyrrhic Blast goes well with the Conscripted Infantry. Does it go well with anything else? I think we'll get rid of the 1/2 soldier. That's not going to be doing much. The Sentinel. Is there anything else that would do good for sacrificing? Rock Hunter does 3 damage if we sacrifice it. Does draw you a card. It is instant speed. You can do it at the end of like the opponent's turn potentially. So this is good sacrifice fodder. The Rock Hunter would be good sacrifice fodder for it. Could potentially do like a combat trick in the same turn, then sacrifice a creature to the Pyrrhic Blast to deal more damage. And the Trenches makes Pyrrhic Blast a bit better as well. What else? We have Power Blade that makes the Pyrrhic Blast a bit better. Military Discipline, I guess, technically does, but it's an enchantment, so if we sacrifice a creature that the aura is attached to, then we lose the aura, so don't think that we want to do that. Supply Drop can potentially make it better as well if we... It'd be hard to play both of them in the same turn, but in the late game, if you use like Supply Drop Combat Trick, save a creature during combat, and then post-combat, if you have enough mana, you can play Pyrrhic Blast and then deal like a bunch of damage to another creature that the opponent didn't block with. Make it sort of like a 2-for-1 kind of deal, 2-for-1 or 3-for-1 depending. Yeah, I guess Pyrrhic Blast is probably good enough to play here. Plus we have like token generation where we can have something like In the Trenches pumping them up. Supply drop can pump a cheap creature, as well as the other combat tricks. Putting a power blade on one of the 1/1 soldier tokens can also be strong. Or putting a power blade on conscripted infantry, we can deal like 5 damage, draw a card, and get a token out of it. And it can deal damage to any target. That's actually a good reason to keep it too. So we can deal damage to like the opponent's face if they're like low on life and it's a stalled board. We can just try and kill them outright. I guess, yeah, the Swift Spear couldn't get pumped up then be sacrificed. I think we have to sacrifice the creature first. I don't know how the triggers work on the order there. If the Swift Spear could get pumped by casting this, then you sacrifice the Swift Spear and deal like 2 damage to something. That could be interesting. So what are the 2 other cuts? I'm pretty sure we want to play 16 lands. We're not like we're pretty aggro, but we're not like hyper aggro, because we do have some late game things that we can play here, and the Vanguards can hold the fort while we try and go wide with like tokens if we draw some of that. Tokasia's Welcome is good here. We have lots of 1 to 3 drop creatures in the deck. We have a lot of 4 drops as well as far as the Vanguards go, but I think this is still a pretty good card in our deck. How many creatures do we have? That'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, that's actually a good point. We only have 6 creatures that cost 3 mana or less. That's a good point. We only have 6 creatures in the deck that cost 3 mana or less, because then we have 4 Vanguards, we have token generation, and then we have the Aeronaut Cavalry and the Seraph. And I don't think that the Seraph counts as a 3 mana creature with prototype. Like, I don't know if you play it as a prototype creature, if it triggers Tokasia's Welcome, which makes it slightly better. I don't know exactly how that works. I don't know if it just counts as 6 mana because it's the full cost. I'm not quite sure how the triggers work there. I think Tokasia's Welcome maybe is not good enough here. We don't have enough low mana creatures. 6 is decent. 7 would make it more decent if we have the Seraph that counts. I don't know if it does or not. We're just going to assume that it's 6 and say that the Tokasia's Welcome is not good enough here with how many lower mana creatures that we have. Final cut. So we have some good removal. We have some combat tricks. We have token generation. 2 excavation explosions. 2 obliterating bolts. The only instant speed removal that we have is the Pyrrhic Blast, but I think we're still okay because we have some combat tricks that we can play. I'm going to take a sip of water while I think over the final cut here and try and figure this out. The Seraph is still really good in our deck. I don't want to cut that. Could cut a Swift Spear maybe, since it's technically not a soldier and it's still 1 baseline, is still only 1 power. It goes well with combat tricks. Goes well if we use removal on a turn to remove a creature, then attack in with it. Tough one. Recruitment Officer is like, it's mid in this deck. It's good but not great. We don't have that many other low mana creatures to do with the secondary ability, but a 1-drop that's a 2/1 is still baseline halfway decent in an aggressive deck, and it still goes well with some of the other sort of synergies and ways to pump it. Maybe military discipline is not good enough. I mean, it's still a low mana combat trick. It is an on-creature spell for the Swift Spears. It gives first strike. So it's a combat trick for +1/+0 and first strike, and it stays with the creature and gives them +1/+0. I think that's a combat trick that we want to keep around. If anything, I'd probably want to keep it around over the Whirling Strike, because at least you keep the +1/+0. Veteran's Powered Blade, I mean, it is 3 mana to play it. That's a pretty high cost. But it does make the Pyrrhic Blast better, because you can just keep attaching the power. You can attach the Power Blade to a creature, sacrifice it with the Pyrrhic Blast, and then you can reattach it to a different creature out there. What's the soldier count looking like? We have 9. That's actually a pretty good count. It's like 9 soldiers, 12 creatures, and then we have, what is it, 3 spells that can generate tokens with, what is it? We have the Mishra's Onslaught, Mass Production. Conscripted Infantry also gives a token when it dies. Yeah, I'm not even sure what to cut here. I mean, I want to keep all of these things ideally. Rolling Blade is less mana than the Power Blade, but I think I'd want to keep the Power Blade, because then I can just move it around with cheap soldier tokens and block with them or attack with them, and then keep on attaching this to other sort of cheap soldier tokens or cheap soldier type creatures, or even in the late game when you have plenty of mana, you can just attach it to a Swift Spear and make it into a 3/2 creature. Yeah, I guess if we were wanting to get rid of one of the artifact/combat tricks, it would probably be the Whirling Strike, because we have Supply Drop, which does somewhat the same thing, and you can draw a card later on, but it's more mana. We also have the Vanguards, which already have first strike. Survivor of Corliss also already has first strike as well. So that's 5 soldiers that we have which already have first strike. This is also a combat trick as well. So yeah, I think Whirling Strike, I mean, giving trample is good, but we don't have any big fat creatures that we'd want to give trample to, I think. I think that we have other plans that we're going for. This is maybe the only thing that we'd want to give trample to, but it has flying already, so I don't know if we really need trample on the Steel Seraph. Yeah, so I mean, first strike and trample. The trample, I don't know if it's going to be as relevant. Maybe it's more relevant if you have like a Chain Dancer with double strike, or you can have like a 4/4 double striker with trample. They can potentially kill the opponent even if they block him. Yeah, I think Whirling Strike's going to be the last cut there. So, tough cut, but I think we have other combat tricks that can do just as well. So, red, white, soldier beatdown, number 1. Oh gosh, more with the character limit there. Alright, soldier aggro. Let's see if aggro fits in here. I don't know if it does, so we'll see if it does. Red, white, soldier aggro. Yay! It fits in the text limit. Alrighty. Okay then, so it's time to go ahead and do this premiere draft. The first draft and the first time playing with any of the Brothers War cards. We'll see if the red-white soldier deck does well compared to the blue-white soldier archetype. That's more common, but didn't end up with any of the blue soldiers, but that's okay. I think that we still have a pretty decent deck here. Ways to pump creatures and combat tricks and removals, so we'll go ahead and get into the first match here, and I will see you all then. Alrighty. Alrighty then. Match number 1. Let's see how we do in the Brothers' War. This hand is way too slow and we have no creatures, so I think I'm going to have to mull this. We are on the draw. We could end up drawing into a creature, but I think it's too risky to wait until turn 4 to be able to get a creature, and we're on the draw. So our opponent's going to have 3 turns to put things onto the field, and we're not getting any creatures out until turn 4 unless we draw into one. Yeah, I think I'm going to have to mulligan this. It's way too slow. This is much better. Much, much better. Yeah, I think we just ditch a mountain here. 3 mana is fine. Mass production in the late game can get us somewhere, hopefully. Sorcery speed, so we can't cast this and attack in with a bunch of tokens, but if we get the +1/+1 buff to the team with the 3 mana enchantments, then we are going to be cooking with heat. So play out the hasty creature first and get in for 1 damage here and see if they use 1 mana removal on it. For them to hold priority, they must have something for 1 white mana. There are some 1 mana combat tricks out there that they could have in hand. I'm totally okay with them killing that instead of the other things we could play out, so totally cool with that one. So let's get our Survivor of Corliss out, which I would rather have anyway in the long run. First striker that goes well with the combat tricks that we have. I think we just get out the double white and we attack in here. A little bit of a slow start so far. We haven't drawn into any action on turn 2 or turn 3, but still doing okay here. Looks like this is sort of like a late game. Once you have a bunch of mana, you can remove something with it, or you can sacrifice it to like Power Stone Fracture or whatever it is. There's some ways to sacrifice artifacts in this set where you can just sacrifice a cheap artifact and remove something, or use it as like removal or something like that. So let's just go ahead and play out the Vanguard, I would suppose. Like, I mean, might as well just go ahead and play it now, and then we can pump up our Survivor of Corliss and attack in with it. So even if they have like a flash creature here that they can put into the field, or something like that, we can still kill it with a 3/1 first strike. They can go ahead and use the Goblin Firebomb to kill the Vanguard, but we can't wait that long. We just have to go ahead and get in there as much as we can. I don't know if we have a way to deal with a static net. I don't know if we have a way to deal with all permanents. We don't have a disenchant in the deck or anything like that, so I don't think that we have any removal that would deal with an enchantment, so okay, so what do we do? I think we just attack in again. We gain some life, so they still have a good amount of life here. We have removal waiting for them if they ever actually play a creature. Maybe they have like a big fat artifact creature that they can't play because they're mana screwed. I don't know. I don't know if they're playing like maybe blue-white artifacts and enchantments, maybe, where they have maybe like a Death Charge Colossus that they can't play out yet. Let's attack in with a Survivor of Corliss first, and then I can play Supply Drop to pump it up and deal more damage if I need to. Alright, so they don't kill it, so let's just do mass production and go wide and see if they have anything to deal with this. I don't think that there's any board sweepers in white. There's some red spells that can deal 1 damage and go wide, killing a bunch of tokens that way. But I don't think that there's anything in white that I know of that is like a board sweeper effect. I think they would need to have some red mana to be able to do that. Right now, their Goblin Firebomb isn't looking too good because we're just going wide against them. So I can use the supply drop to deal with the recruitment officer and keep one of my tokens around, and I can also just use it to draw a card. I think I want to save Obliterating Bolt for something that's a bit bigger. So let's attack in with everything. See what they do. If they want to block, I'm okay with that. Okay, so they gain first strike. That's okay. Let's just do this here. So supply drop won't save one of my tokens, but I can get in some more damage with one of my tokens, so let's just do this. So you want to use a combat trick to kill a token. I'm pretty okay with that. So in this case, Obliterating Bolt being sorcery speed kind of hurt us, because then otherwise we could have killed the recruitment officer before blocks were made. We could also just draw a card with that. I think maybe that might be better than we just save Obliterating Bolt. Yeah, I think we just do that. I mean, we could just hold priority with it, make them think that we have something else in hand, but I'd rather just go ahead and do this. Know what I have in hand. So a Vanguard was a very good draw there. Gives us at least something. We can pump up the Survivor of Corliss when we play it, and then it'll be a first striker attacking in. Okay, prison sentence means that we can't really pump it, but that's okay now. We still have other tokens. Obliterating Bolt is still looking good here. I mean, so far they used removal on 2 1-drop creatures and a Vanguard. And then they used the combat trick to kill a 1/1 token, so far we've been winning pretty handedly, I would say, in terms of value. So if I do end the trenches now, the next turn I could just exile stuff and do stuff that way. Vanguard would be good too to pump up one of the tokens. I think we're just going to do Obliterating Bolt and see if they have like a combat trick in hand. Let's just get rid of the recruitment officer and get rid of their blocker now. See if they have like a combat trick to try and like save it or something like that. Survivor of Corliss, probably not saving them here. I think we do in the trenches, and we can exile the Survivor of Corliss next turn with all that mana. So we have them dead on board next turn unless they draw something else that's good. They know what In the Trenches can do as far as exiling any creature that they play. So unless they have like a disenchant, they're basically dead here. Disenchant or some other way to deal with an enchantment here. There are some other ways to remove things like non-land permanent, like another static net, or some other way to deal with an enchantment would be able to save them here, but Okay, they're pretty much dead now. Unfortunately for them, I believe that they are dead. So that's 6 mana. I could also exile the static net and get back the Vanguard as well. I don't know if it works like that when it enters the battlefield until it leaves the battlefield. Cool. So I don't know how this works, if exiling static net would end up getting back my Vanguard or not. I mean, I have the advantage, so let's just see if this actually works the way that I think that it should. Let's exile the static net and see if I get my creature back. I do! I do! Alright. Alright, so we're still only going to deal 2 damage here, but, you know, I get my Vanguard back for free. I have another Vanguard I can play next turn to get in for more damage. So I play another Vanguard, I get +2/+0 to 2 different creatures, I would think. Okay, yeah. So if I play a Vanguard here, I get +2/+0 to 2 different creatures, which would basically kill them. So they need like a board sweeper effect here, or they're dead. I assume they must have one if they're continuing the play and scry. That's not going to save them. Alright, good game. Alright, so first game in the Brothers' War. We get a nice victory here. Pretty solid. We were able to get out some of our good soldiers, and then we just went wide with tokens after they wasted their removal on some of our smaller creatures. I guess their starting hand must have been so slow that they wanted to use removal on any creatures that we put out, because otherwise maybe they feared that they would just get run over if they didn't kill creatures right away. So... Alright, so we got off to a good start with our red-white soldier deck. Let's see if we can keep the winning streak continuing here. A winning streak of only 1, but let's see if we can go ahead and make it 2, and I will see you then. Alright, let's see what our second opponent has in store for us. They have hopefully some tofu magic. Tofu, I'm sure, can go pretty well with some good magic sauces out there. For anyone not familiar with tofu, tofu is like sort of like a vegetarian sort of protein sort of thing for as far as food goes. Anyway, this hand is slow, and we are on the play. Vanguard is good, but only having 4 drops in our opening hand is probably too slow. And we don't really have anything here that's good sacrifice fodder for the Pyrrhic Blast either. We don't have like any of our 3/1 creatures or something like that that can go well with it. I think I'm going to have to mulligan this. We have 4 Vanguards. We can maybe still get one in another hand. This is much better. Let's go ahead and keep this, and I think I just want to return the Mishra's Onslaught to our hand. It goes great with the End of Trenches, but I think that we're going to need to make sure we have enough lands to play the Vanguard, so, and we're on the play, so I think I want to keep the lands. So turn 1 Coralist, then turn 3 Trenches, and then hopefully turn 4 Vanguard. Maybe we draw into a 2-drop or a 3-drop before then that we can do something with. Alright, so at least we have the land to play out the Vanguard turn 4. Next turn we might still be able to... Well, we need to draw some white mana, but we did not draw the white mana. Okay, well, we're still okay. Power Stone Engineer. I think we just want to keep attacking in here and try and do as much damage to them as we can. If they hit us for a couple points of damage, I think I'm still okay because I can play the Vanguard next turn to stop their attack. So they don't have any good blockers right now. Right now the Vanguard would kill both of their blockers even if they double blocked, and Survivor would also kill both of them as well. Let's go ahead and play the Vanguard pre-combat here and see if they want to prevent 3 damage here. Yep, I wouldn't block either, but they could have if they wanted to. So Veteran's Power Blade, they're going to probably equip it to the infantry, I would think. Both of them gain a good positive effect if they die, but since it's 1 mana to equip to the infantry, that's what I would do. Okay, so Power Blade isn't bad here because we can equip it to the Survivor and then attack in with it pretty effectively here. Since it would mean that the Power Blade would make the Survivor and the Vanguard able to attack in without dying, and we can just sort of race them. Yeah, I think that's probably for the best. Let's go ahead and do this, and then we can equip for 1. Let's equip the Survivor, and then we can attack in with both of these. And even if they double block, we kill both of them before they can deal damage to us, so we have them on a 2-turn clock if they don't have any other creatures or removal here. We can equip the Power Blade to the Vanguard and make it to where they can't even triple block, so Queen Kayla. So what does this do again? Discard all cards in your hand and draw that many cards. Okay. So this is this goes pretty well in the same deck that 3 mana enchantment with like anything that's 3 mana or less draws you a card. Very good with like a low curve type deck, so I have to assume that they have a pretty low curve in their deck that they have here. So do I want to do Into Trenches or Mass Production? In the Trenches would allow us to attack and pretty much kill the recruitment officer because they would probably want to block. Then again, if I attack in and they have ways to pump their creatures, right now they're dealing 9 damage. If they have a way to pump their creatures or do damage to face, we die. I think we do In the Trenches first. And then, do we want to attack with anybody? I guess we could attack with the Survivor and then keep the Vanguard for defense. Still have them on a clock potentially. Yeah, I think we just attack with the Survivor. Because it means at least next turn they can't just attack with everything, because then we can get on the backswing and possibly kill them that way. They'll have 6 life left if they don't block, and then that means next turn they can't attack with everything. Granted, they're going to be playing out at minimum the Queen Caleb in. Let's do this. Make sure that we can pump up enough damage here even if they have a combat trick so we can kill something. So yeah, if we kill the conscripted infantry, they get a token as a chump blocker. Recruitment officer is a mana sink, so I don't know if they're going to attack with that or not. So they have to have a low curve deck here. They have the Queen, they have recruitment officer, both go in low curve decks. Mana value 3 or less type cards. Red-white also tends to be sort of low curve. aggressive type decks with combat tricks and removal as well. And some token generation in white. So I guess the Queen Kayla would have been a legendary card to get in red-white. I guess they must have taken it early on in one of the packs because we didn't end up seeing it in any of the packs from what I remember, so they must have gotten it pretty early as one of the first few picks. Looks like they have a pretty good deck though. They have a pretty good low curve. Conscripted Infantry is good here, 3 mana, and gets them a token if it dies. You can trade it off or sacrifice it in some cases. Like if they have like a Pyrrhic Blast of their own, then this can deal 5 damage to our face and make a token, and then they re-equip the Power Blade. Pretty strong, pretty strong. So that's 6 mana. This would be only 1 equip cost, so if I play the mountain, let's just do this, and I could do mass production and then re-equip the Power Blade and attack in and force them to make some blocks. Yeah, because if I equip the Power Blade to the Survivor, or I could attack first and then see if they want to make any blocks, see if they take the 5 damage. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control. Okay, so maybe I want to do mass production first. Yeah, I think maybe we just want to do mass production first, since this will do it whenever a creature enters the battlefield. So let's see if this works the way that I think it should. It does. It certainly does. So they're going to have to make some blocks here, and probably going to have to chump block. So this is 7 power, so we'll make this 8 power, I suppose. And attack in with both. So they're probably going to chump block here to save themselves. They're not going to be able to kill any of them since they have first strike. Yeah, this is a very strong synergy. I didn't realize how much that creature tokens and getting them out would really synergize with the Vanguard here. Very, very strong. And then I will equip this to one of the soldiers here for blocking purposes. So now we have something that can block the queen should they decide for some reason that they need to attack with it. Okay, so they have all lands. And then let me choose an artifact or creature card. Return the cards to the battlefield. Okay, so they would have to discard one of them though, and they only discarded lands. So yeah, they could be dead here because they have no mana. They don't have enough blockers to save them. Yep, that's gonna do it. GG's. Yeah, once they tapped out there, I knew that they had to be dead because they couldn't play anything else. They don't have any mana left. Nothing they could do there, but they had a pretty strong looking deck. I mean, they had very low curve. I would say that our decks were maybe about even in terms of power level. You know what? I'm going to look at my deck here again. Because creature token generation is very good with that. I just want to check to make sure that we don't have any other ways to make like the creature tokens here. Because if we do, I might want to play them. Artifact cards, so that's not good for us. False Scroog. Alright, so we don't have any other creature token type thingies, but I still like where our deck is headed here. So I was just double checking there for our deck to see if we had any other ways to make creature tokens for the Vanguards, because that is super strong. Super, super strong. So let's go ahead and get into round 3, and let's see if we can keep the winning going on. So I will see you all then. Alright. Another opponent in the arena. Alright, so Recruitment Officer turn 1 is good, and then we can have some removal or an equipment depending what they play, then top out our curve with a cavalry. Maybe we draw into some more soldiers. Pretty good hand, so let's go ahead and keep it. Having removal on the draw isn't too bad, because then they can maybe play out a 4-drop creature on their turn 4, and then, or they can play a 4-drop creature or a 3-drop creature, and then we have the mana to kill them with Excavation Explosion. Since they're going to be like 1 turn ahead on their curve, it means that if they're on the play, they play out like a 3-drop creature. Then on our 3rd turn, we can Excavation Explosion it once it's on the field. So, tapped Power Stone token. I don't know if it really does anything for our deck. We have some artifacts, but not many. We have like the Combat Trick Supply drop. The Power Blade, I guess technically is an artifact, but yeah, let's get the Recruitment Officer out here. So they could be blue-white soldiers, or they could be splashing one of those 2 colors because they did have an Evolving Wilds, and so maybe they wanted to get one of their splash colors on the field first. I think we just play a red mana and pass, or we attack here and then pass. If they have a way to deal with it, then I'm kind of okay with that. It's still only a 1-drop, so. Phalanx Vanguard. I mean, I'm okay attacking into it. 2-1 for a 2-2 is not bad. Probably a soldier and artifact heavy deck, I would assume. Blue-white has a decent number of artifacts in it that they can play, as well as some artifact soldiers as well. So they might have, there's like a, I think a 3-1 soldier that has Unearth that they can play. Then they can play the Unearth cost and make like a bunch of creature tokens with it. So they could have that in their deck. Let's go ahead and let's just attack in first and see if they want to trade their creature. They don't. Okay, so I think what we do is we play the Survivor now, and then next turn we can play the Power Blade, then equip it onto the Recruitment Officer, I would think. I guess the Survivor would also be a good way to equip, because then it has first strike and 3-1. I'm going to go ahead and turn down the music volume a bit. On my headphones it shows up a little bit. Turn down the volume just a little bit. I did adjust it from the previous few videos that I did to make sure that like the background noise level wasn't too high for background noises as far as conflicting with my voice. So what do they play there? Kayla's Command. Alright, so they can choose 2. Double Strike, library for basic land card, basic plains card, okay. So they gave that, I think, a +1/+1 counter and double strike, and then I think they gained. Did they gain 2 life? Yeah, I think they gained 2 life. Okay, and scry 2. So double strike and vigilance. I mean, double strike until end of turn. So they deal 6 damage, but I don't want to lose my Survivor right now. Power Blade, I think, is too good to chump block here with it. So now I could still use the excavation explosion to just get rid of it and just do it now. Get rid of their vigilance creature. And then I can still do... I can... if I do the excavation explosion, then I get the Power Stone token out. Next turn I can use the Power Stone token to pay part of the cost for the Power Blade and also get like out the Rock Hunter in the same turn. So that'd be 1 less mana, so it'd be 2 mana, then 1 mana equip cost. Yep, I think that's what I'm going to do. Let's get rid of the Phalanx Vanguard here. And the Power Stone token can pay for some of the Power Blade next turn. And we can get out the Rock Hunter in the same turn. Okay, so Rock Hunter can deal with a Paratrooper, but I doubt that they're going to attack in with a Paratrooper anyway, since it's only 1 damage. I still think we want to play the Power Blade here, and then put it on the Survivor and attack in. So we play this. Let's go ahead and tap that. Well, I guess technically we can't equip it in the same turn and play the Rock Hunter, but I'm still okay with this. Let's get onto the field. And then I guess we just go ahead and equip this now. Equip it to the Survivor and attack in, I would think. They could have a combat trick with their white mana that they can cast, but at minimum, the Survivor of Corliss, I think, would end up trading with the Paratrooper in most cases. They could have a supply drop, and that could do us in, but except for Sentinel, what does this do? +1/+1 count. Okay, so they remove it. Yeah, so they return it to their hand, they prevent the damage, and then they put a +1/+1 counter. Okay. Zephyr Sentinel is another good soldier that we could have had for our deck in blue, so pretty good soldier, flying, flash, 2/1. Has that secondary ability there. You can save a creature potentially. There's a battlefield and draw a creature controls its owner's hand. Okay. So yeah, you can use Zephyr Sentinel to protect a creature from removal, for example. So if I do In the Trenches, and I can attack with the Survivor, I can also save the Mishra's Onslaught and attack with both of my soldiers, and they can trade with the cavalry, and they might think that I'm just bluffing, maybe. Mishra's Onslaught with the tokens, though, goes so well with In the Trenches that I don't know if I want to do that, though. Let's do land. Aeronaut Cavalry would also be a good blocker here and allow us to attack in with the Survivor. Yeah, I think if we get the Aeronaut Cavalry out, we can give the Survivor a +1/+1 counter, allow it to attack in, and then we have a blocker at the very least for... They can attack with both of their creatures here, but then they have 0 blockers on defense, so I don't know if they would want to do that. Mazebind Tome, that's a reprint, but that's a very strong card and constructed for card draw and card advantage, so... Very common to see the Mazebind Tome in lots of blue decks. Black decks, like... There's so many decks that use this in Constructed that it's very strong. Very strong card draw. And just allows you to try and get what you need when you need it. Since I have the Rock Hunter, I can still block at least the paratrooper. The interesting thing is I can still attack in for the Survivor of Corliss, and it survives a double block here, since it can kill the cavalry before it can deal damage, and then the paratrooper does only 1 damage. I'm okay just making the trade here and saving the damage. We don't want to go down to 6, especially when they have a pump effect here. Okay, another mana is good. So what do we have? We have 6 mana, and we can play both the Onslaughts and the Rock Hunter, or in the Trenches and Rock Hunter. We could also potentially combat trick Mishra's Onslaughts to try and kill them. It would be 6 power and 4 power, so we could kill them if they don't block. That might actually be better. Granted, in the Trenches it's much worse if we don't have the token generation from this, but we could kill them now if they choose not to block. I'm going to go for the more safe play and just do in the Trenches right now. And then attack in with the Survivor. It's pretty safe. And it still puts them on a bit of a clock here, so... And then we play the Rock Hunter that can block one of their flyers. I could have re-equipped the Power Blade. Maybe should have done that for the Recruitment Officer, but it saves me 1 mana next turn, not having to re-equip it again if I want to have it on the Survivor. Rock Hunter can still kill the Cavalry. If they have a combat trick, then having the Power Blade on the Rock Hunter would be better, but they don't have very many cards in hand, so... Airlift Chaplain, there's a battlefield, mill 3 cards, and then you can put something into your hand. So baseline is a 2/2 flying creature, and then you can occasionally get value and have it be a 1/1 flyer. Okay. Mass production is looking mighty fine here. Very fine. Mishra's Onslaught. Maybe using this as an instant speed combat trick is going to be better if we can go wide. We have 1 reach creature to deal with their flyers. They have a pump effect of the paratroopers, so I have to be careful here. But yeah, Mishra's Onslaught I think is the only instant speed token generation that they could have. Mass production is a sorcery speed, so we can also exile one of their things, but I think we want to do mass production and just get a bunch of creatures out there. Let's at the very least force them to block here and see what they do. They chump. Alright, then we do mass production and get a bunch of blockers out there. If they have removal plus combat trick, they could win, but they have 5 damage currently on the field. If they have removal, then pump effect, they would deal only 8 damage, which isn't enough to kill us, so they only have 8 mana, so I mean, they can pump here and potentially get in for 8 damage, but then we just kill them next turn. There might be like Fog of War that they might have. Alright, so I guess they don't have it, otherwise they would have kept their mana up. But I think there's a card, if I remember correctly, I don't know if it's in this set or in a different set, but I think that there's a card called Fog of War that can prevent like all combat damage for a turn. So yeah, I'm assuming Yeah, Psychic Blast will go ahead and kill them. We'll just do nice, good game. We'll just kill them this way. Yep, I want to sacrifice. Well, I guess we'll target this and then sacrifice this. Okay. I had the order of what it was asking me wrong there. I wanted to sacrifice that, deal damage to the opponent. So, but yeah, GG's. We were able to get another win against what looked like this looked like an actual like blue-white soldier type deck from what I was seeing. So we had Aeronaut Cavalry, the Paratrooper, Chaplain is decent enough if you have enough low curve creatures. And then they had the Commando, and then they had some good stuff like the Recruitment Officer. The Zephyr Sentinel is a pretty good soldier card. Vanguard, decent soldier as well. Kayla's Command is a pretty good spell that gives you sort of like a 2-in-1 effect. And they had like several prison sentences as well, from what I remember. Or they had one prison sentence, and then... Alright, I guess they just had one. I guess another opponent that I played against, the previous one, had prison sentences. But yeah, we had a pretty good matchup this game. They had Mazemind Tome. They had some pretty good cards. I'd say they had probably a pretty good deck. So, very glad. And we didn't even play any of our Vanguards this game, at least from what I remember. Yeah, we didn't actually play any of them, and we still won. So, feeling pretty good about our deck so far. Very, very good. So, it was a soldier deck that I didn't anticipate playing, but red-white soldiers, as it turns out, pretty damn good in this format. So, I'm pretty happy with that. Does it mention red-white soldiers in this thing right here? Unearth aggro. Okay, so there are some unearthed cards and some prototype cards as well, but red-white soldiers, I would say, is working out pretty well for us, so I would have to put that on the list as well. So, all right, well, let's go ahead and pause the recording here, and I'll see you for my next match against our next opponent. All right. Take 4. You have the good old Minsk and Boo sort of avatar there. Alright, so we do have white mana for our cards here for the Power Blade and the Steel Seraph. We are on the play. We need to draw at least one land to be able to do what we want to do. It's a bit risky. We do need some red mana as well, but I think I'll keep this. We have a 1-drop. We're on the play. We have 2 draw steps to draw some land here to try and get it out a 3-drop. Alright, we got the land that we needed, so we are looking like we're in pretty good shape. Let's go ahead and play this out in case I want to use the Obliterating Bolt for anything next turn. This is another pretty decent soldier. Ward 2 does prevent us from using the Obliterating Bolt on it for now, but I think that with our 1/1 first striker, we're not going to really need to do that right now. Do I want to play the Seraph now and then give like lifelink to my survivor, like with a Power Blade on it? Maybe. But I think that if I just take my time, then have this be like a 5/4 flying creature, then it gives me time to set up like the Power Blade on my survivor, and then maybe Combat Trick Supply Drop, and then removal Obliterating Bolts. Let's just go ahead and attack N first and see if they want to chunk block here or do anything weird like that. Yeah, I think we just do supply drop. Well, I think we just play the Power Blade. Let's just play the Power Blade first. Supply drop is better to do when you're surprising your opponent with it, so I'd rather just do that. such as right now. The Vanguard is very good too in this situation, but it wouldn't be with surprise. If we attack in without equipping the Power Blade, they'll know something's up and they're just going to not block. Vanguard would give the same buff this turn as the Power Blade, so I could just do that and then have a 2/3 blocker for their creatures. Do I want this to live, though? Add 2 mana, any combination colors. Okay, so as time goes along, this is going to get much stronger. But I could wait a turn, then kill it. This can ramp, though, so I might want to kill it now. Let's just go ahead and kill it now. And then we will equip the Power Blade and race our opponent. Oh no, I think that was the right thing to do. I don't want their Gwenna to be ramping them into the bigger stuff right now. They could ramp into a 6... ramping into a 6-drop creature would probably hurt us pretty bad if they played a 6-drop this turn, so... Could play the Seraph and get some lifelink going. This doesn't do anything since our creatures right now would have first strike. We could just play the Vanguard and then attack Endless Survivor as a 5/1 creature and deal 5 damage. I think we're just going to go ahead and do that. Do this free combat to pump in some more damage. If they want to chump block, I'm okay with that too. Getting rid of the Death Toucher makes it easier on like our creature tokens, or a 3/1 Rock Hunter can get in easier too. Gaia's Courser. Okay. 3 or more creature cards in your graveyard, but it's still a big creature. We could kill it with Supply Drop here. Supply Drop the Survivor of Corliss. We could also do both Supply Drop and Military Discipline as combat tricks on the same turn, since we have 4 mana for it. So what happens if we attack and they don't block with anything and they just take it? So they can deal 9 damage on the backswing. And then we can do plus... We can add... We have 5 power now. We can add another 3 to deal 8 damage. You can also prototype and add lifelink. I think we do this. Let's go ahead and play this with prototype. I think we need it now. And then let's go ahead and do it with the Survivor. Maybe should have played the Mountain there first. Oh, it gave me... Okay, whatever. Whatever, game. I don't like you. I should have given it lifelink and it did the triggers for me. So... I'll chump block with the Recluse. That's fine. And then what I can do here is I can do Mountain, re-equip for 2. And do we want to do it on the Seraph or the Vanguard? I think we just do it on the Vanguard for next turn. That way if they have a combat trick for the Honor Guard, then we can kill that with a 4/3 first striker. Green does have a good amount of combat tricks in it that can improve their power and toughness. Like there's a Giant Growth, I think, in this set that they can play, which gives +3/+3 until end of turn, which could make this like a 6/4 creature. So Power Blade on the Vanguard prevents that from getting us. And we are not going to block. So next turn here, we can do some stuff with supply drop and military discipline. So yeah, I don't need to worry about mana right now. But I do want to get a lifelink counter, I think, for the attack that's coming up. And I think let's play Plains. Oh, I don't think we need to. Let's just go ahead and do Equip Soldier. Do the Survivor. And let's go to combat. Let's target, I think we target the Survivor. Give it lifelink. And attack in with everything here. So I think we do military discipline on the Seraph for first strike. And then we do supply drop to pump in some more damage with our Vanguard. And then, do we want to re-equip the Power Blade to anything? I guess if we put it on the Seraph, we can have them dead next turn. No. No, let's just end our turn. Don't have enough mana to re-equip it on this turn, so to the Seraph at least. We can equip it to the Seraph next turn and kill them over the top for 6 damage. We can also just draw a card with supply drop if they have a way to defend against it. So that's not going to save them, I think. I think that this is just GG. Yep. Good game. So we got in over the top with our aggression there. I made a mistake by not being able to put the lifelink counter on my Survivor of Corliss there, but the Steel Seraph getting in over the top, we could have killed them with the Power Blade this turn, and so I think that our opponent realized that they had nothing they could do. I assume they didn't have much in their hand, like removal or a flying creature that could stop them, or stop us, I mean. This wasn't going to be good enough. So, GG's, and let's go ahead and move on to the next game here. While waiting for the server to load up and do its thing. Alright, more rewards. Alright. Let's move on to the next match and see if we can, well, not likely we go undefeated, but we'll see if we can. So I will see you then. Okay, well that didn't take long to find my next opponent. They were waiting right out of the gate for me, and this is definitely a mole. Yeah, anything that's one lander in your opening hand, even for mono red, that's way too risky, and we have no red mana with all red spells, so easy mole. This is much better, so let's go ahead and keep all these. I mean, the Rock Hunter we can play out turn 2, but the Vanguards are definitely more valuable for our deck with all the token generation and just all-around awesome cards. So I think we just put the Rock Hunter onto the bottom and we keep the Obliterating Bolt for 2 mana removal here. So I think this is a pretty easy hand to keep right here. Yeah, if this was like a 7-card hand, that would have been like a perfect curve out almost for us. So, still happy that we had it though, at the very least. Blue-red, I forget what archetype it is. I think it's probably artifact heavy. They probably have a couple of like prototype sort of cards in their deck, since blue and red is pretty heavy on prototype and unearthed and artifacts. Just taking a quick drink of water here. Since Obliterating Bolt is sorcery speed, let's just go ahead and play out the Swift Spear and get in for 3. And then next turn I can Obliterating Bolt, kill a creature that they play, and then attack in for 4 with a Swift Spear getting buffed. Pyrrhic Blast isn't too bad either, but we don't really have... Pyrrhic Blast is also pretty good for the Vanguard. You can pump up a cheap creature, attack in with it, and if they choose not to block, then you can sacrifice a creature that got pumped up and then kill something that they have. Let's go ahead and do I want to do Obliterating Bolt or not? I think that we probably do. Then again, they could just block the recruitment officer with their creature token as well. Let's just attack in and see if they block with either of. See if they block either of them. Okay, they're going to take the trade. And let's play out the land and keep the Obliterating Bolt for whatever they play next. Another conscripted infantry, okay. So I could trade the Swift Spear, Vanguard. Can also pump it to make them more likely to want to trade with the Swift Spear. Yeah, I think that's probably still pretty good. We can encourage them to trade with the Swift Spear. And if nothing else, Vanguard can still block the infantry if they want to attack in with it, so they don't really have any good attacks here. We trade a 1-drop for a 3-drop. And then we still have like Obliterating Bolts for whatever they get out onto the field. A couple of 1/1 tokens isn't going to do much for them right now unless they have removal to get rid of my Vanguard. Okay, so 1/3 Artificer Vigilance, draw a card so they can rummage with this. They can rummage and sort of loot through their deck to draw and then discard to try and find one of their big bomby type cards. And then they can make like Power Stone tokens. So this is definitely a artifact heavy deck that they're playing, I'm assuming, in red-blue. And so if we play a Vanguard here, then we can attack in the 4/3 first strike and they're not going to be able to kill it. Could also just Obliterating Bolt right now and get rid of their Rummager so they can't keep drawing cards here. Probably the safest play is to do that, and then I can still attack in. Let's go ahead and get rid of their Prodigy first before they can get their card draw effects going with it, and we can just attack in here and they can't block. Then next turn, if they tap out and attack with both of their creatures, then yep, we can attack in here with the Vanguard anyway. Adept, so when you draw your second card. So yeah, if we didn't kill their Prodigy there, then this thing could just end up getting bigger and bigger, so... So what we can do here is we can play the Vanguard and then Survivor and then just pump up Vanguard and force them to trade their Adept for the Vanguard. I think I'm okay with that. It does make the Pyrrhic Blast a bit worse, but I think I just want to encourage them to trade. I could just play Survivor next turn and also Pyrrhic Blast. Yeah, in the long run that might be better because we still have them on a clock here. So let's do this now. We can pump up the Survivor next turn and then Pyrrhic Blast with it to kill something. If they draw a second card this turn, then the Adept gets bigger, but I don't know if that's really relevant right now because we can still attack into it. And Obliterating Bolt makes that a bit easier too. But I still think that Survivor plus Pyrrhic Blast is the play here, and Pyrrhic Blast can deal damage to their face as well, so it can deal it to the opponent after combat ends, maybe. We can also sacrifice a Vanguard to deal damage to their face. That might actually be better. Let's go ahead and play this. Because we can attack in with both the Vanguards here and then sacrifice one of them to the Pyrrhic Blast. And then this is only creature or planeswalker, so we can attack in with both. They have to block at least one of them. If they leave one of them unblocked, then we Pyrrhic Blast for the win, unless they have like a counterspell in hand of some kind. Okay, so we're not going to use Pyrrhic Blast this time. Unless they have like a combat trick to try and kill one of them or something, I don't know. Okay, so they're going to sacrifice a creature. You know what, I'm going to let them do that. That's okay. If they want to waste Pyrrhic Blast on that, then I do not mind that at all. Then I think what we do is we just Obliterating Bolt on their Adept and make sure it can't get bigger. Clear out their board, and then we scry with the Survivor. Onslaught is good, so is Mass Production, but we don't have enough lands for it. But the way that I'm thinking is that Mass Production is still good if we draw a land and we only need to draw one. It prevents Flood from killing us here. And then Mishra's Onslaught, we can play that next turn as a combat trick or the Pyrrhic Blast. So I think I want to keep both of these. And then in 3 turns, if I draw like a land, I can still get out the token generation for the win with the Mass Production. Subjugation's probably not good enough here to save them, so... Yeah, because the Vanguard's still going to provide the +2/+0 buff if I play out a creature here, so I think they're still dead. Because the token generation is going to pump up my own Vanguard that I have that's untapped, and they're going to die, so... Yeah, if I'm understanding this correctly, the Vanguard's still going to pump the other Vanguard with the token generation, so... I think that they are still dead as a doornail. Unless they have more removal for the other Vanguard, but we'll see. I'll force them to have something here and see if they play it. Okay, so they have something, but... Pyrrhic Blast can still get them here next turn. We can Pyrrhic Blast the Vanguard that's tapped down and do some damage that way, so... Mass Production is also going to be pretty deadly if I have both of my Vanguards on the field, so if I draw a land in the next 2 or 3 turns, we can kill them that way with a Vanguard. So we can still attack in here with the Pyrrhic Blast that we have. Because then we can deal 2 damage to the Adept and then kill it with First Strike. And then if we Mass Production the turn after this, we can just get in for the win. So we either draw a land or we draw something that we can play out and we can still pretty much win. Yep, I think that's the play. Let's get in with the Vanguard. Alright, so let's sacrifice the other Vanguard. Oh, no, I don't want to target that. I want to target this. Jeez, the triggers here are killing me. They are killing me. Oh, thanks. And the Trenches is also going to be pretty good here. So we can either end the Trenches or Mass Production next turn. That obviously hurts because now we're not going to get massive value here, but in the Trenches plus Mass Production I think still wins us the game, so I don't think that they have mana for a counterspell here, so I think they're dead. Even if they have removal for 1 token, we still get in there for 6 damage next turn. If they have 1 blocker, we get in for 6. They need like a board sweeper in red to not die here. So do we want to play out, like what I can do here is I can do Steel Seraph for 3 mana. They counter that if they have a counter spell in hand. And then if they don't have a counter spell in hand, or instant speed board sweeper or something, then I can do 3 mana for Into the Trenches. Yeah, because if anything gets counterspelled, I'd rather have it be the Steel Seraph, because this doesn't win us the game this turn. So I think we do this for 3 mana. See if they counterspell it, because they do have counterspell mana up. They don't. We could have won with Into the Trenches there, and I forgot that the prototype is double white and so is Into the Trenches, but I still think that this was the safer play out of all of them, so we still get in for 4. They're dead on board next turn. And they're still dead on board next turn. They can block the Steel Seraph. They could still play something else out here, but within the Trenches, they're still dead. Alright, so that's not going to save them, I don't think. Or we cast a non-creature spell. They can make a token. And then flying. So yeah, with Into the Trenches, we can do like lifelink on the Seraph. Gain some life. We could also give one of the tokens flying as well to force them to block one of the tokens. So they're tapped out. We'll do this. Can't equip the Power Blade right now, so... Oh, good game. Nope. And then we're going to give one of the tokens flying, force them to block with their flying creatures. And then we can equip the Power Blade to one of our creatures, and they're dead as a doornail. We can also remove one of their permanents with the In the Trenches, and we can just get in for the win. So they need some serious work here to be able to beat us. They could play out another thing. Yeah, I think we just win here. Sacrifice it, draw a card. So yeah, they can't win here. We use In the Trenches, and we kill them. So, GG's. Alright, so In the Trenches, really doing some work for us, and the Pyrrhic Blast seems to do pretty well when your opponent has enchantment-based removal. You can just sacrifice a creature that's kind of been removed from the board with the enchantment, and then make the good use of that. So, quite like this deck. I didn't know how it was going to do. I mean, I felt that the deck was good, but we have good removal, we have good creatures, we have a fairly low curve. We can pump out a bunch of creature tokens as sort of curve toppers. I am loving this deck. So I love red-white as a color combination too. It's one of my favorite combos, so I am having a lot of fun with this deck so far. So let's go ahead and get into it and see if we can get one step closer to a clean sweep. So I will see you then. Alright, who's going to be the next player to fall victim to our red-white soldier deck? TFC, I wonder what that's an abbreviation for. Alrighty, well, we have removal, but we have no early creatures. We can get this out on turn 3 since we have the mana for it, which isn't bad. And then we can equip it with a Power Blade and give it lifelink. Yeah, it's a risky hand, but I think I'm going to keep it. Is a bit slow on the first 2 turns, but I still think that's worth keeping. Alright, let's just go ahead and play out our other white mana here and make them think that we're not in red. And then we can play out a red mana next turn and basically... Excuse me. A little bit of gas there. Sorry. My apologies for the gas on camera here, as it were. So now we have a choice to make. We can play out the Survivor, the next turn Power Blade, equip it, and then try and save up for a 6 mana Steel Seraph. Or we can do the Steel Seraph this turn, and then Power Blade equip it next turn with Lifelink. Oh, this would be pretty good for the Samurai Warrior deck from Kamigawa. Too bad it's not in the same format, is it? You know, I think the safest thing is we just go ahead and play the Survivor. Pass. And then we want to keep up our Steel Seraph, and maybe the Survivor can eat some removal here if they have any. Okay, so we can still attack into that. And it has an Earth, so... Yeah, this is a very good card. Even without an Earth, this still would be a pretty good card to play. Like for our deck, for example. So... Do we just want to get rid of the Simicrum? Or Simicrum? I don't know how you pronounce that. Or do we want to attack in with the Power Blade? I mean, we could just attack in with the Power Blade and see if they want to trade. I mean, I doubt that they do, but... I think that we want to do 2, 3, and then equip. Auto Tapper was trying to screw me there. I want the Power Blade to equip for 1. I think we just try and get in for some aggression here and see if they want to trade. 3 damage for 4 isn't too bad, especially when we want to fly in over the top of the Seraph and kill them as quickly as possible. And we can also give lifelink with the Seraph to gain some life back. This has reach, but the Seraph can still attack into it and kill it. They don't have any green mana for Unearth, so if I kill this, I'm not going to be able to play it for 2 turns, I think. This is only colorless mana that they do. And I doubt that they attack in with the Tower Worker, so... Artifact equipment and the turn for each other character. Yeah, so I doubt they attack in with the Tower Worker with that equipped. So I think... Let's just go ahead and attack in with the Survivor and see if they want to block. Don't, so let's go ahead and do Obliterating Bolt on the Simicrum. They can't unearth it for at least another couple turns at minimum, so I'm okay with that. And then next turn we'll do 6 mana Steel Seraph. Could have played the Seraph this turn, pre-combat, get lifelink going, but rather just have the 5/4 flyer. More unearthed action here. Okay, so they can unearth it and draw some cards, but it's going to be a 4/4 attacking creature if it attacks alone. Okay, so that means I can't really block with the Survivor, so I might as well at least attack with it. So let's go ahead and play this out for 6 mana. Don't want a prototype. And then I want to give this... Okay, well, GG's. I guess they might have been color screwed. They didn't have enough green mana to unearth their... Well, I guess technically they can't unearth it because it's already in exile from my removal. I forgot that. Yeah, Obliterating Bolt, even better than I thought, because if it dies, then it exiles. And so we exile this, then they can't unearth it because it's not in their graveyard anymore. So that kind of screwed them, I think. Yeah, I kind of overlooked that aspect of the card because sometimes I don't read the cards fully like I should. I admit I should maybe just read things a bit more closely and realize the interactions, but the idea is there. Anyway, so yeah, we were going to attack in for 3. They can't block there effectively. We get lifelink. And then we go into them for 8 damage unless they chump block with a Tower Worker on the Steel Seraph. Yeah, so it was not looking good for them. We didn't have anything in hand, but the opponent probably thought that we did, so it's understandable that they might have thought that we were just curving out better than they were, maybe. I don't know, but the Tower Worker could have ramped them into something big next turn, but they probably thought that they were on the losing end of that battle. So, 1 match away. We are 1 match away from a clean sweep. So, let's go ahead and let's see if we can go ahead and do it, ladies and gents. See you then. All right. Here it is, the moment of truth. Let's see if we can get the clean sweep here. And we have a pretty good opening hand. We do need 1 more mana to be able to get things going the way that we want. We can at least get the Excavation Explosion going. If we can get 3 mana, 4 mana gets us a Vanguard on curve. But yeah, this is a good enough hand. I'm going to go ahead and keep this. Turn 1 Swift Spear into turn 2 Survivor. Possibly turn 3 Excavation Explosion kills something that they play out. Excavation Explosion can also pump up the Swift Spear. Now I really want another mana. Go ahead and play the Survivor. We really need a land, otherwise we might be in trouble, but if we do draw a land, I think we're in pretty good shape. If they use removal on either of these, I'm pretty happy with that. If they kill the Survivor, then if I don't draw a land, I can scry next turn to try and make sure I draw one. So I can go, if this thing dies to removal, or if I want to attack into it and sacrifice it, then, alright, so I got the land that I needed, and I can do, I don't know if I want to do Excavation Explosion, because then that sort of semi-ramps them, but yeah, I think I might just want to save the Excavation Explosion for something that's bigger. Alright, so let's attack in and see if they want to trade with the Swift Spear. If they do, I'm kind of okay with that. Could have done Excavation Explosion to kill it and pump up the Swift Spear, but I just don't think that it was worth it in this situation. So we can get in for 4 damage unless they play a creature. They can ramp into an artifact creature, perhaps. It could be a artifact-heavy deck with the art or the engineer. Things like Power Stone tokens, sacrificing artifacts and Power Stone tokens, ramping into big artifact creatures with Prototype is another thing that they can do. And I think we can still just... we can go ahead and Excavation Explosion that, and I'd be okay with it. And then hope we draw a land next turn for the Vanguard. Yeah, I think that's probably okay. Get rid of their 3/2 creature. Maybe make it a bit easier to play out the Power Blade next turn if we draw that. We can play it out and then equip it for the white mana next turn if we draw it. Yeah, so Power Blade would be a decent draw. Land would obviously be awesome. Plains would be the best thing we could draw here for double whites for some of our other cards in the deck that require double whites, like the 3 mana double whites. Pump your team enchantment. Alright, Rock Hunter's not bad either. And then they have Scrapwork Mutt that they, I think, discarded into the graveyard. Yep. Or that they milled into the graveyard, sorry. So they can unearth that for red mana and draw Rummage for their deck. I mean, we can just attack in here and we get Conscripted Infantry, gets us another token if they want to trade with it. I think I'm okay with that. Just try and make sure that their board stays relatively slim here. And then the Rock Hunter can maybe attack in next turn. Conscripted Infantry would be much better with like the Vanguard out there. You could also sacrifice it to the Pyrrhic Blast, and then this thing pumps another creature before combat and does all that, but can't have all the combos at the same time. So we still have 3 soldiers out there right now, and we're still in decent shape. We do need a land badly next turn, otherwise we might not be in good shape. The worst draw would probably be drawing the 6 mana white token generation, and then any double white card would also be bad to draw. If we draw a mountain, we're okay. If we draw plains, we're in great shape. Plains is ideal, mountain is good. The Power Blade would also be decent, since we could play that and equip it this turn. Next turn, I mean. So, and then we could equip it to the Survivor for 3 damage, first strike. Alright, so yeah, we're not looking good here, but we can get in for 5. And at the very least, priority is being held, so they might think I have something in hand here. Paratrooper's fine. If they want to get rid of the Rock Hunter, I'm okay with that. Okay, so they use 2 cards to get rid of a Rock Hunter. I'm also okay with that. So yeah, if we draw land next turn, like, you know, the time is running out. We need to draw land. Time's running out to try and get past our opponent here. So we just need to draw 1 land and we're in good shape. That's not a land and doesn't help us. Yeah, unfortunately that does not help us. That's a bad draw, so we're in rough shape. I mean, with a bunch of cards in hand, they might assume I have something here. But they're probably going to attack in anyway. I guess they're going to keep Paratrooper for a blocker, since they're a bit low on life. If I were them, I'd probably attack with both, since I just have a bunch of 1/1s out there right now, but we'll just take the damage here. This is probably our last chance to get things going with a land. We don't draw the land, though. I mean, Power Blade a couple turns ago would have been good, but now we just need the land more than anything. We are stuck on 3 lands. I mean, we can still win, but it's not looking good now. Not looking good. So let's do the Power Blade. And then we can equip it to the Survivor and attack in with it. And if they have removal for it, so be it. But at the very least, if the Survivor dies, then we can go ahead and scry 2 with it if they use like removal on it. So we need to just keep attacking in here. They have 5 mana to pump the Paratrooper, I think. Yeah, so that's going to force them to use mana at least. But now, next turn, I can go ahead and scry with Survivor if we don't draw a land. So I force them to use mana on the Paratrooper there. And maybe they held up their mana so that way they could block with the Paratrooper easier, but at the very least I prevent them from playing stuff out. That's one of the worst possible draws. I have all my 4 drops and no 4 mana, so I think we just scry with this. I mean, I guess this is technically not a non-artifact spell, so... what do we scry here? Land! Yay! 5 turns too late. Obliterating Bolt is good too. I think I want the land next turn, then the Obliterating Bolt after that. We can kill their flyer here, the cavalry. Maybe killing the paratrooper might be better too, because they can pump. Yeah, I think we want both of those. We could have used the planes a couple turns ago, but, you know, it's what you gonna do. We can't really attack in here since the paratrooper's there, so... Okay, and then they have another paratrooper. So yeah, throwing the survivor to the wolves there, still the best idea, because then, if nothing else, we can scry if we miss like a land drop again, so... We're kind of mana screwed here. They have 2 paratroopers that they can pump with. Granted, they can only do 1 pump per turn, but it's another creature for them to pump up with. So they pump once, they add 3 damage. And so they can deal 3. Okay, so I thought they would try and maybe pump that turn over the top and kill us, but they didn't, so... Yeah, I think we're just dead here. Because they have 6 damage on board. We don't really have what we need here. I mean, we could end up facing this person again in the draft, since there's so few people that are probably left with so many wins. So maybe I don't want to play a Vanguard and give our hand away if they play us again. On one occasion, I do remember having played someone who, you know, I played twice in the same draft. I think I actually played them back to back here. So we're going to concede here. We're not going to try. We're not going to reveal any of the Vanguards. So that way, in case we end up playing Mako again in this sort of group, then they're not going to know exactly what we might have in our deck. So, since they might remember the cards that we played. So if we play them again, they might just assume that we were mana screwed, but they don't know exactly what other cards that we had. So, still get some prizes. So yeah, we unfortunately we didn't get the 7-0 clean sweep that we were hoping for, but all things considered, being mana screwed like that is kind of hard to win no matter what if you're mana screwed. So even if you have a good deck, it's kind of hard. So it happens. But anyway, I'll go ahead and see you for the next match and hope that we can get 7 wins here. So I'll see you then. All right. Let's see if we can go ahead and get to 7 wins here. Burge E&D, so it's not the same opponent that we played before. Alright, so we don't have double white for this. We can do an Obliterating Bolt. We are on the draw. We have 3 draw steps to draw at least 1 mana and a creature or something. But it might just be too slow of a hand. Obliterating Bolt can buy us time. And we are on the draw, but... I mean, if we draw at least 1 white mana, we're in good shape, I would assume. Since we're likely to draw into something. We either draw land and we can play the Vanguard and in the trenches, or we draw some things we can actually play out, so... I'm gonna risk it. We're on the draw. We have a couple draw steps to draw something here, so... 3 draw steps to draw at least 1 land, so... Alright, so we got 1. Don't have double white yet, but we're okay. What does this thing do? It's an equipment. 1/1 for each land you control. But the equip cost is very heavy, so you have to play it in a This is maybe more of a constructed card where you play it in a bunch of, if you play it with like a bunch of legendary creatures. I imagine in, what's the format? The decks where you have like commanders and stuff, and you have only one card of each in your deck, and they can all be like legendary creatures. This would probably be very good in a deck like that with a bunch of legendaries. So, yeah, so we're still not really doing a whole lot. Any target. Let's just go ahead and play this out for now. And then if we draw a land, we can equip it to the Vanguard in a couple turns. So if they play out a creature here, we have removal. That's a creature. They get the 4 life, but we can do Obliterating Bolt and send it into exile. So I think that's what we gotta do here. And then we draw 1 white mana, we're in great shape. If we draw a red mana, we can at least play the Vanguard. Alright, so we can at least play Vanguard here. I think we still play it. This isn't really that threatening, so we're just going to play this out. And then we can do Excavation Explosion, plus equip the Power Blade next turn if we need to. Mishra's Onslaught would also not be bad to pump up the Vanguard for a bunch of damage. Yeah, so Mishra's Onslaught here as a combat trick is looking pretty snazzy. We could also Excavation Explosion. We could also equip the Power Blade to give 4 power and kill one of them. I mean, Mishra's Onslaught is still looking like the best thing here, but we could also play out a Vanguard. Then next turn, play out the Onslaught instead. So that way we get double value from the Vanguards. 2 Vanguards being on the field with 2 creatures getting out. Yeah, I think that's the play. Let's get out the Vanguard, and then we can still attack in with the other Vanguard with 4 power, or 6 power, I mean. Yeah, I forgot this thing will trigger twice, because it also happens when you put it onto the field, so double blocking, probably not in their plans, but chump block makes sense. They prevent 6 damage, they already get the end of the battlefield effect. So, chump blocking, not too bad. They can ramp into something big here, like a Depth Charge Colossus could be something that they have in hand. There's also some pretty powerful green creatures that have the prototype stuff going on. Spotter Thopter, how good is this? When it enters the battlefield, scry X, where X is its power. Alright, so it's only scry 2, so that's not too strong, and we can easily attack into this. I don't know why. Oh, how much mana did they have? They had 7 mana. So yeah, they probably felt that they had to play it out now to slow down the Vanguards. So in that sense, if they had nothing else, that sort of makes sense. But yeah, I think that Mishra's Onslaught is going to get them pretty good here. Let's go ahead and put this out. We want to do this pre-combat. Equip one of the Vanguards. Then we have enough mana for the Onslaught's combat trick here. Put out 2 soldiers. Pump them up. Okay. So if they're going to do blocking this way, I don't think that I use Mishra's Onslaught just yet. I'm going to wait and see what they do first. Alright. +1/+1 counter for creature control. Hexproof and indestructible, so yeah, I think we're just going to go ahead and have to take that one on the chin. They have indestructible, so first strike doesn't really matter. So now what? Target creature control gains reach, hexproof. Okay, so what do we want to do? We can equip the Power Blade to the other Vanguard. We can do Excavation Explosion on the retrieval unit as well. I think we just go ahead and equip this to the Vanguard. And then do we Excavation Explosion on the retrieval units? I mean, I think we just do it now and make the best use of mana. Could have done that pre-combat to one of their creatures, but you know, I wanted to attack first and force them to have something there. I don't mind them doing that because we can still kill them. So I guess we can do Mishra's Onslaught plus the Military Discipline to get in a bunch of damage, and then next turn we can end the trenches and attack in to see if we can get the win. Maybe even Mass Production next turn if we draw a land. I think that's what we gotta do. Let's do Military Discipline. Doesn't really matter when we do it. Just gotta go ahead and do it. And then we go ahead and do this and make the tokens and pump it up so it does a bunch of damage. And let's attack in for 9. We're kind of racing them right now. So if we draw a land, Mass Production can kill them next turn, I think. It's going to be a bit more difficult now, but and also Obliterating Bolt into the trenches. Yeah, Spotter Thopter is going to be a bit hard to deal with unless we get like the Rock Hunter off the top to chump block it maybe. The fact that it has flying means that we can't really block it with much else that we have. So Obliterating Bolt doesn't kill the Spotter Thopter. Don't really clear a path as much as we need to. Yeah, I kind of forgot that eventually this thing was going to equip for 7. I guess technically the Power Stone tokens can power up the equip cost on that. So if we end the trenches, we can attack in. We can do into trenches plus supply drop. I don't know if we can win though. We really needed to do like Mass Production and get in over the top with some creature. Yeah, I think this is GG's here. I don't think that we can win. So they just get in over the top of the Spotter Thopter and we can't block it. So we needed to win this turn. Kind of unfortunate there. If Obliterating Bolt was instant speed, we could have done that in response, or before they could have equipped the Spotter Thopter. And again, the safer play could have been just getting rid of their creatures. Had I realized that they could equip this with the Power Stone tokens, which I probably should have, then they wouldn't have had a creature, a flying creature at least, to be able to equip, and then I could chump block with like my 1/1s. So yeah, that's unfortunate. Unfortunate to come right on the cusp. We're right on the cusp of 7 wins, and we just can't quite get there. So I'm hoping we get there this time. So, all right. So I got kind of mana screwed the past few drafts. We didn't get lands out quick enough to do our things. So let's hope that the final round, win or lose, is going to go ahead and get us there. So I'll see you then. All right, let's see if we can do it. It'd be very painful to go 6-0, then go 0-3, just short of getting the 7-0. So let's hope we can do it. So, I mean, we can do 2 Swift Spears. Supply Drop can pump both of them, as well as the Power Blade if we play that out. And then Pyrrhic Blast can maybe be useful, but We need to draw at least one land, though. If we don't draw a land, we are in trouble. And we could use some white land. So I mean, this is a risky hand. For the final match, I think I'm going to have to mull this and hope that I get something better here as far as lands go. Alright, this is much better. Much, much, much better. So, I have both colors. We're going to keep this. Both Onslaught and Supply Drop are going to buff up the Swift Spear. I think we got to go ahead and drop maybe the Onslaught. 4 mana is just a bit too rich right now with only 2 lands in the opening hand on the play. Supply Drop can pump up this to make it 3/3 first strike. Makes this bigger as well. So I think we just got to go with this and hope for the best. And then we have Obliterating Bolt at the very least. We can also do something with that if we don't draw a land. Buy ourselves some time. Okay, Subjugation. So, the battlefield maybe 3, 2. Alright, so Weak Stone Subjugation, cheap removal, but using it on the Swift Spear I think is quite satisfactory. Plus, the interesting thing is that we can still sacrifice it to the Pyrrhic Blast. And we can pump it up with another non-combat spell, then Pyrrhic Blast to kill something with it. So that's also still going to make it useful. Okay, Vanguard's not bad if we get another land, so... I guess the question is, do we want to use the Supply Drop now? Best use the mana and get in for 3 damage. Let's see if they have some kind of like removal here. Okay, so we don't. Let's just do this now. We do waste the Prowess value, but that's only going to come into play if we draw the Pyrrhic Blast to sacrifice it, so... I'd rather just get in the damage now, get in with the aggro plan. Good thing I had the Supply Drop too, otherwise they would have used the Paratrooper to kill the Survivor. Or they could have anyway, but you know, maybe they assumed that I had something. But yeah, alright, so we have the land helps quite a bit actually. We can do Vanguard and attack in with the Survivor. Yep, let's just go ahead and get it onto the field. And then attack in with Survivor. Get in for the aggression, keep the damage going. And then we can clear a path with Obliterating Bolt next turn, or we can draw a card with Supply Drop. So the race is in our favor for now. If we draw the other Mishra's Onslaught that we have in our deck, that would be good. Land's not bad either. We can still draw with the Supply Drop. I think we still play the Mountain even if we draw with Supply Drop. So, yeah, this is the 3/1 soldier that I was talking about, the Scrapware Cohort. It comes into play, you get a token onto the field, and it's a 3/1. Colorless, so you don't have to worry about getting color screwed with it. Then unearth it for white, and then you get another token, and then you can attack in for 3/1 again. So let's go ahead and let's draw our card pre-combat to see if we draw that 1 mana aura card that we have. Okay, so we don't. I mean, we can attack in with the Vanguard, and they can't really kill it. We can also attack in with both, but then they can attack in for 4, 6, 7 damage next turn. Yeah, so I think I keep the Survivor back to block, and then I attack in with Vanguard. Survivor can block the cohort and prevent 3 damage there. Alright, now that's really bad. That is really bad. This is the soldier that I was hoping for. The Tactician and the Cohort were 2 cards that I was really hoping for. So I think I have to chump block here. Then double removal spell next turn. I can do Obliterating Bolt on the Tactician, and then I can do Excavation Explosion on something else. But I need to prevent some damage here. Alright, so Pyrrhic Blast means that we can... So what we can do here is we can Obliterating Bolt the Tactician, everything else gets debuffed, since the +1/+1 is no longer there. And then we can do the Pyrrhic Blast to go ahead and sacrifice the Swift Spear and kill the Cohort, since it's only going to have 1 toughness after the debuff happens. Well, actually I can't do that. I don't have enough mana for that, which sucks. I can't do both of them on the same turn is the thing. I might have to kill the Paratrooper because that can pump the team. Yeah, so let's do Obliterating Bolt first on the Tactician. Get rid of that. Sucks that I can't get the Swift Spear value with that. And then I think we have to do the Excavation Explosion on maybe the Captain, or the Paratrooper I mean. And then I think we just have to stay back for blocking purposes here. We have to hold back the Cohort. Sucks that we can't get, like, if we could have Pyrrhic Blasted last turn, then we'd be in great shape. Because then we still have another removal spell, but we can still do Pyrrhic Blast this coming turn against one of their 1 toughness creatures, but would have really preferred to do it last turn to prevent them getting in for as much damage. Killing the Paratrooper was the right choice, because it could pump the entire team and then they can kill us by going wide with that. Okay, so let's go ahead and play the land. We can do both Pyrrhic Blast and Survivor Scry this turn. And this is instant speed. So I think what we can do here is we can attack in with a Vanguard, then instant speed Pyrrhic Blast. And we can maybe get like a 2-for-1 special going if we attack in. I think that blocking at this point, we're just going to get overrun if we don't attack now. So we need to attack in and get some damage going. And then let's go ahead and Pyrrhic Blast now, and then we're going to target the Cohort. Sacrifice the Swift Spear. Granted, they can unearth the Cohort, but I'm just kind of hoping and praying that we can do something here so they can get in 3, 4, 7 damage if they unearth the Cohort next turn. Okay, so let's go ahead and scry with this. Does Swift Spear do it? Probably not. It does pump up. Let's get rid of the land. So we can pump up the Vanguard once, but that's not going to do it. I think we need to draw... Yeah, I think we need to draw the 6 mana token generation spell to win this. Swift Spear I don't think is going to do enough here. So I think it's like the 6 mana token generator or bust at this point, or Rock Hunter might be able to slow them down, but they have 2 flying creatures, so unearth that, get another token, attack in for 7. I'm going to keep 1 back for blocker purposes, I guess. I mean, they already have 1 chump blocker, so I don't know if they need to do that, but... And then they just hard cast Warlord's Elite for the blocker, okay. Yep, that's gonna be GG's. We were 1 win short. Oh, 1 win short. Oh, that bites the dust. Oh, GG's. Yeah, there were some good soldier cards that they had in their deck. Blue-white traditional soldier archetype, you know. Could have really used the Warlord's Elite in our deck. That would have been pretty awesome. And then the what was it? The Tactician and the Cohort also would have been awesome for our deck. We could have splashed for the Tactician and be pretty well off, I would say. Gosh. Oh my goodness, we were this close. We were that close. No! No! Oh gosh. Alright, well. We were on the verge of greatness. We were this close to bringing peace and prosperity to the arena. Kudos to anyone who gets that reference. Yeah, so we were that close. We were so close to 7 wins. And then we got mana screwed a little bit. And then last match we came up against the Great Soldier deck that had what they needed. So... And then they kind of went wide to kill us for the win. So it happens. You know, it happens. You know, you don't win them all. So let's go ahead and see what we draw in this pack. Astral Cornucopia. So enters battlefield X charge counters, and then you can choose a color. Okay, so this is like a ramping type card where you can pay X. Oh, excuse me. Yeah, you can sort of pay X to pay it out. And so if you have like Power Stone tokens, you can power this up, and then you can fix in a certain color. You can also just ramp in another color for like activated abilities, or if you have like big fat creatures in your deck and you're not going to be able to play all of them normally in one turn, you can use the Astral Cornucopia to just ramp into big stuff and play multiple big stuff. Here's another prototype creature, Hulking Metamorph, enters the battlefield. There's a copy, okay. So you can have this enter as a copy of another creature. Okay, so that's interesting. And if nothing else, it's the big hulking creature they can get out for 9 mana, ramping with Power Stone tokens. There's a Prince of Krug, artifact creatures. All right, so we did see this, I believe. I think it was in the in one of the packs that we opened in the draft. We passed this card and didn't play it because it's not in our sort of archetype, so it wouldn't have been for our deck. But blue-white artifacts, or any artifact heavy deck that wants to splash for this, I would say this is a pretty strong card. Just pump all your artifact creatures. You can go wide with artifact creature tokens as well in this set. Vanguard was awesome in this deck. I would probably first pick this. It's just strong. Anytime you can get a bunch of tokens out, pumps up somebody pretty big. First strike means that if you pump this thing up, you can attack in with it most of the time. All around, very strong card with token generation, and any soldier deck would be happy to have it. And then Prison Sentence with some good enchantment-based removal. So yeah, this is a pretty good pack. There's some build arounds with artifacts here. There's an argument to be made that you take the Urza and then hope to wheel one of these 2 cards. That would be great in an artifact deck. But this is just so strong. The Vanguard is so good. I would not pass that one up again if I opened it. So strong in our deck. We just got mana screwed, and we had like 4 of them in our hand at one point in time. and we couldn't cast any of them. So if we had one more land in that match, we could have won. And so Forging the Anchor, what does this one do? Top 5 cards of your library. Okay, so artifact cards. Okay. So you can reveal any number of the artifact cards and put them into your hands. This is like, in an artifact heavy deck, this would be definitely very strong. You can just reveal a bunch of artifact cards, up to 5 of them if you get lucky. Put them in your hand. Yeah, the opponent knows that you have them, but that's like some massive card advantage. So might first pick that. We did see this against one of our opponents, and this seems like it could be good in constructed play if you had like a Samurai Warrior deck. Attack in with 1 creature, and then it gets +1/+1 if you have a bunch of other creatures out. So that seems like it could also be strong in that kind of deck. And it could also be strong in like token decks. Go wide with tokens, get a bunch of creatures out, attach this to a creature, make it bigger when it attacks, and then equip it again next turn if they even kill the creature that it pumps up. So Autonomous Assembler, Vigilance, and then +1/+1 counter. Okay. So baseline is a 2/2 Vigilance or 4/5 Vigilance for 5 mana, but then if you have Assembly Workers, which are those artifact creatures that can do things with other sort of Assembly Worker cards, then this could be a good build around for artifacts. Rust Goliath is halfway decent, but it's not at its best unless you can ramp into it with Power Stone tokens for the 10 mana. Battlefield Butcher, what does this do? Each opponent loses 2 life. Okay, so this is like a drain your opponent out type card, and it is a soldier, but it's in black, so yeah. So if I were to pick a first card here, I would probably go, this is like the green-black, mill 3 cards. This is for green-black, mill yourself out sort of deck, and then you play things from the graveyard. I would probably take Sigil of Valor. Goes great in anything that can make creature tokens or just get a bunch of creatures out. Argument to be made that Forging the Anchor is a great build-around card with artifacts, but I would say Sigil of Valor would go well in a lot of decks, so I'd take that one first pick. And then maybe I hope to wheel one of these other cards here for an artifact deck, maybe. Okay, so what do we get here? Titania's Command, what does this do? Choose 2, exile target player's graveyard, gain 1 life. Okay, so that's interesting. And then you can search your library for up to 2 lane cards, and then you can ramp with it as well and possibly fix your mana. Create 2/2/2 bear creature tokens and put 2 +1/+1 counters on each creature you control. Alright, so that's very, very strong. I would probably first pick that. This is a good way to ramp and gain some life, so this would be good for any artifact deck that ramps into big things and then you gain life to buy yourself time against aggro decks. Argivian Avenger until end of turn against -1/-1. Okay, so you can do a... If this could get lifelink on a whim, then this would be even better, but Vigilance or Flying is pretty good if you're attacking in. And then later in the game, you can give it like Death Touch if you want to go ahead and deal damage to multiple creatures and kill them both, guaranteed. We did see this against one of our opponents. They didn't have a chance to get it going before we won the match, but this could also be very strong in that same deck for any creature token generation, like the equipment that we just opened up in that previous pack would probably be good in a deck with this, where you make a bunch of tokens. Also a splashable card if you're in a warrior deck, or not warrior, if you're in a soldier deck and you have like combat tricks or equipments and stuff, then this can also be pretty good for that if you want to splash it. It might have been pretty good in our deck actually with these soldier tokens. But yeah, Titania's Command, way too good here. There's also a Evolving Wilds for fixing. Pallbearer is good for the green-black mill deck, but I would take first pick Titania's Command. Hope to wheel the Talisman, the Wilds, or the Pallbearer there. And then here, Lodestone Golem. Alright, so if you're going all in on artifacts, this is a pretty great card. 5/3 for 4 mana baseline is pretty good, and it's colorless, so you don't have to worry about being color screwed to get it out. But yeah, non-artifact spells, so It's not very good if you want to cast like removal spells or enchantments or things like that. But if you have like say a supply drop as like combat tricks instead of other instants and sorceries, then you can get around the extra costs with this. Hostile negotiations. What does this do? Exile top 3 cards of your library. Face down pile. Exile top 3 cards of your library. Another face down pile. 3 cards. Okay. Okay, so the opponent basically has to choose between the lesser of 2 evils with this card. So they have to basically choose between 2 piles of 3 cards and choose between whichever one they would rather face, and you lose a bit of life. So I wouldn't first pick this, but if you're in a self-mill deck, like the green-black self-mill, this is probably pretty good, because then even if you put something into your graveyard, you can still possibly get it back, since there are some black cards that can get things back from the graveyard. And then with another Ironclast, which would be pretty good in the Lodestone Golem deck, since this is... it creates an artifact creature token. So, I mean, it would cost more for the initial casting, but it's in the artifact sort of colors in red-blue. Emergency Weld is one of those black cards to get things back from the graveyard with this, for example. So you can get a artifact or creature card back, and then you make another token. So this would be a pretty awesome card for green-black mill. This is a pretty good flash creature you can flash in as a surprise blocker. Machine Over Matter is also pretty good for sort of an instant speed, save your creature from removal, or remove one of the opponent's blockers from the field. I think I would probably go ahead and first pick the Lodestone Golem. Like, it's a good build around. You can get a bunch of artifacts, then hope to wheel either the Ironclast, Emergency Weld would also be very good. Machine Over Matter would also be great in an artifact deck to be cheap if you have an artifact creature out. Another pack. And then Brotherhood's End. Sorcery speed, but you can deal 3 damage to each creature and planeswalker. Or yeah, so this is like the board sweeper type effect. I think we did pass this, and if I remember correctly, we did pass this in one of the packs I think that we had, but we didn't choose to take it. But yeah, this is a potential sideboard card. It could also be good in best of 1. There are lots of artifacts in this set, so at minimum you could clear the board of the opponent's artifacts or reset the board with a board sweeper effect. What does this do? Draw a card for 2 mana and then sacrifice it, so you could... Okay, so you can kind of fix for mana as well as drawing a card with it. So, and it's also sacrificing a permanent, so if you have any cards that get stronger when you sacrifice a permanent, like that 1/2 Goblin or whatever, this can also be good with that kind of archetype. Yep, so that looks pretty good for most any deck that needs fixing. And this is a prototype card that can be 2 mana Death Touch creature. Swift Spear was decent enough in our deck this time. Juggernaut has an Earth and Trample, so not bad for an aggro deck, especially if you have ways to pump it up with any other combat tricks or anything else. So I'd probably take the Flask first pick. It's easily the safest pick. Colorless artifact, can fix for mana, draws a card baseline. Probably safer to take than Brotherhood's End, which is double red and maybe in some cases more of a sideboard card in best of 3. So I would definitely take the Flask there first pick. Hey, Draft now. What does this do? A Legend. Return target artifact you control to a owner's hand. Okay. And copy target artifact spell you control. Okay. So this is interesting. You can sort of copy target artifact spell, I think, happens when you cast a spell. Or, I don't know. I guess if it's already on the battlefield. Okay, so it's not when you cast a spell, it's when you already have it onto the battlefield. Okay. So you can copy an artifact and just keep making creatures that way. And then you can also save your creatures from removal by returning something to your hand, or you can get more into the battlefield effects as well. Like the Scrapwork Cohort would be great with this, because then you can return it to your hand, play it out again, get another token into the battlefield effect going. This looks very strong for an artifact build around, so Sigil of Valor also would probably want to be in the same deck as this for into the battlefield effects that make tokens. Zephyr Sentinel, we saw this against one of our opponents. This is a great card for the blue-white soldier deck. You can flash it in. You can put a +1/+1 counters to semi-combat trick, so I love this card. This would be great for any soldier deck. Shoot Down, more of a sideboard card in best of 3. Curate some decent card draw in blue. Strong Bull. Decent if you have lots of ways to make Power Stone tokens, but I don't think I would ever first pick it. Probably take that if I was building around an artifact deck already. And the Demolition Field seems like a situational card that is more for a constructed play, where you just try and kill all of your opponent's lands. So yeah, I would take the Drafna and then hope to wheel the Sigil of Valor. Maybe the Curate is a card draw. Okay, and then the last one here. We did see Hajar, we did draft him, we weren't able to splash for him. 2 mana 3/3 though, baseline is pretty strong if you have the mana fixing available for a soldier deck. It's also just decent enough if you get a decent amount of legendary creatures going. There are some legendaries that are lower mana cost that can make your curve okay. We did come across a couple of legendaries against some of our opponents this time, so it's a decent build around that if you have lots of mana fixing can go great in a soldier deck. Chromatic Star is one of the ways to fix for your mana, so this is definitely a pretty good sort of artifact that can also go well with the sort of sacrifice and artifact type synergies that are in the set for some cards. So you can draw a card if you sacrifice it. So yep, I'd probably go ahead. Oh, and then there's Junkyard Genius. I need to read this one too. Enters the battlefield to create a tap Power Stone token. Okay, so good into the battlefield effect, and then sacrifice into the creature or artifact. And then you can pump them up and give them menace and haste. Okay, so lots of Power Stone token generation would be very good for this. And red-black does have sacrifice synergies of like artifacts and creatures and stuff. And then here's one of the assembly worker type cards that you can get in the set. Scrapwork Cohort would also be great. And then Stern Lesson is some pretty decent card draw and can ramp you with Power Stone tokens. So this is a bit of a thought draw. I'm not reading all the cards here. I'm kind of getting caught up in the other ones. One artifact enters the battlefield under your control. Target creature gains flying. Okay. Yeah, for an uncommon, this is a bit underpowered and a bit too much of a build-around card, so I'm not sure if I really like that card that much for 4 mana. Junkyard Genius, on the other hand, seems like a very good build-around, and then you could hope to wheel the Scrapwork Cohort, which would be great for, again, into the battlefield effects and stuff like that, or Chromatic Star would also be good because you can sacrifice it with the Junkyard Genius, and then you can draw a card after sacrificing it. So, and then Wasteful Harvest seems like it's basically only for the green-black self-mill deck. So, yeah, Junkyard Genius, hope to wheel Chromatic Star or the Scrapwork Cohort, I think. All right. Well, I thank everyone for watching and being, again, patient for me with my return to making some YouTube videos here. I know that some people probably waited for a long time and, you know, probably just maybe stopped watching me for a while or weren't really waiting around to watch more of my videos. But if you're watching, I do appreciate your patience, and I hope that everyone enjoys my return to making some more YouTube videos and trying to get into doing some of the Let's Plays again and picking them back up. So if you're waiting for any of my Let's Plays, then keep an eye on those for those soon. I do plan to get around to those at some point in the future. So appreciate your time, and I hope you all enjoyed this red-white soldier deck that went 6/3. Hope you all have a very wonderful day, and as always, take care.